Okay.
Before we get started, I think Paula would like to introduce the
Oh,
ESC of Lorain County, and we'll give her and Candace a few brief moments just to let you know what the ESC of Lorain County does for our families.
okay. Thank you, Carla. So my name is Paula Drummer, and my colleague Candace is here as well. We are the parent mentors, as you just heard. We work for the Lorain County Educational Service Center. So as Carla gets into her presentation, you're all going to be surprised because you registered and you will receive a wonderful communication binder. We will, if you live in Lorain County or one of the districts that we serve in Erie or Huron, we will make sure to get a binder to you. So what does a parent mentor do? We provide free support and resources to families of children with disabilities and school staff members. We have the unique experience of parenting a student receiving special education services. So we really understand how challenging it may be to navigate through the special education system. We provide information and resources for improving student success, planning transitions from preschool to kindergarten, as well as from high school and beyond. We're also able to attend many school-related meetings. For example, IEP meetings or 504 meetings. We provide families and school districts links to service organizations and that support students with disabilities, as well as share information about special education laws and policies. If you don't live in one of the areas that we serve, you can follow up with Candy to receive a binder. Candace, do you want to add anything?
Nope, just glad you're all here. It's good to be, it's always good to get information and to share information and to kind of know you're not in this journey alone. So thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you, Paula and Candace, for introducing yourselves.
Yeah.
Now, about half of you are from Lorain County. The other half are from Cuyahoga County, I saw. And you also have an educational service center of Cuyahoga County. We also have Medina, Geauga County educational service centers. If you live outside of Lorain County and you would like to get the same support that Paula just described, we can work with Candy to help you link up with your parent mentor and ESC organization that's in your county specific. The other thing that both of them mentioned is that participants of this program will get a free communication binder kit. It includes a handy communication binder, tabs to get your organization set up, and cover sheets that you can use to help organize your materials. This information, the communication binder, will be for Lorain County residents delivered through the Lorain County ESC. For residents outside of Lorain County, Connecting for Kids will take care of getting your communication binder kits. And with that, let's get started with the program. I'm going to share my screen with the PowerPoint presentation. Share. And big. There we go. All right, so welcome tonight to How to Communicate with your child's school. My name is Karla Fitch, as Candy said, and I have a master's in technical and scientific communication, which basically means that I can take a lot of information and organize it and make it easy for other people to understand. So this works out really well with communication binders. So what is a communication binder? Well, after tonight, you're going to decide that it's your new best friend because it allows you to organize formal documents, work samples, data, and communications from your child's school. So let's start out with that first category of formal documents. Formal documents are standard documents that are shared between the school and your family. These documents will include evaluations and standardized test scores, your IEP, 504 plan or WEP, report cards and progress notes, behavior assessments, plans, and contracts. Now, these documents can be intimidating. There's a lot of words in them. There's a lot of pages, and they just kind of give them all to you at once. And sometimes it's tough to wade through them. I love understood.org, and there's going to be a link at the end of this presentation. where it goes into a lot of the documents in detail and tells you what each one has in it and what you can expect to see. Also, this link from understood.org is going to give you some documents that I'm not going to cover in the presentation tonight. Just for time's sake, we're going to keep to the most common documents that you see in your child's IEP or 504 or those sorts of documents. So evaluations. If your child doesn't have an IEP, the evaluations you're most going to commonly keep in your binder will be like those private evaluation reports. So for example, if your child is receiving private speech therapy, or if they are working with a private counselor or something like that. Your child is also going to have those standardized test scores that you get every so often during the school year, your DIBELS, your MAPs, your state tests. Those are all things that you want to keep in your binder. If your child does have an IEP, you're going to want everything that's on the left side of the screen, plus your most recent evaluation team report. And that's that every 3 years report that does an assessment of your child's different strengths and needs. IEPs and 504s can get a little confusing. Now, an IEP describes specialized education services that the school provides, the timeline for providing those services, and the goals that are used to measure progress. IEPs also include accommodations and modifications. Now, this is a contract between you and the school as to what services and how your child's education is going to be delivered. A 504 lists accommodations and that can remove barriers to learning. Accommodations can include things like access to wheelchair ramps or specified desks so that your child can have the right desk height. But what a 504 really does is change the environment. The IEP is actually changing what your child is learning. Another document that some families are going to come across is what's called a written education plan. And these plans are used with gifted and twice exceptional students to help enhance the student learning environment. This includes, like an IEP, the student strengths, the present levels of performance, and annual goals. And a student can have both a WEP and an IEP or a 504 if they are twice exceptional. For example, they are gifted and have ADHD, or gifted and have a learning disability. The Ohio Department of Education has a lot of information on WEPs, or you can access your school's gifted coordinator to find out more about those plans. All right, another type of document that I talked about with formal documents is report cards and progress notes. Report cards, we're all familiar with those. They can help us keep track of progress over time. Another great way of using report cards is you can sometimes get an idea of your child's daily schedule. So if you look at this sample report card here, you can see that the student starts their day with art and then goes to math and has their study hall. And that kind of gives you an idea of what the student is doing during the different parts of the days. Progress notes are another IEP related document, and those are going to report on the specific progress your child has made during each quarter or review period. And those come out with your report cards typically. All right, the other document I mentioned were behavior assessments, plans, or contracts. So sometimes when a child has a behavior challenge in school, they're going to need a document called a functional behavioral assessment. And what this is a professional assessment that kind of discovers why your child may be having a particular behavior in the classroom. Once that behavior, the functional behavior analysis, the FBA, is written, the behavior team will write a behavior intervention plan, or BIP, and that's going to give you the specific learning goals to help your child change the behavior. So for example, let's say Susie pokes Johnny every time they get a new assignment. And so the behavior plan may include some intervention so that Susie learns to better control her reactions to getting a new assignment. Another type of document that's less formal is a behavior contract, and that's typically written between the student, the parent, and the teacher, where the student may say, I'm going to work toward this goal in behavior in exchange for this reward. So we mentioned those cover sheets, and this is an example of one of them. for the formal documents. With these, I generally like to record the name of the document and the date that it was signed, because a lot of these things have regular review periods. For example, your IEP is reviewed every year. So seeing that signature date can help you kind of plan ahead and ballpark in your mind, ooh, I'm going to have an IEP meeting in a couple of months. I better get my act together and get all those papers that I just stuffed in my communication binder actually filed. Work samples. This is another one that can be either really overwhelming or really easy, depending on how you like to do things. These are a snapshot in time that highlights your child's strengths and identify areas of weakness. So in this example, I'm showing off a strength of a child where the child has actually taken a volume worksheet and has solved all the volumes correctly. And this would be one that I would stuff in the communication binder to say, look, my child really understood this concept of using a math formula to solve for a solution. I'm sorry. This one is an example of a challenge. In this case, the child had a fill in the blank vocabulary test and appears to have gotten almost all of them wrong. So this I would look at as, ooh, you know, my child isn't really good at memorizing vocabulary in this case. How are these two samples going to help me? Okay, so the math sample showed that my student can remember mathematical processes and apply them. The vocabulary sample showed, on the other hand, that the student has issues with remembering. Math, that's a concrete repeated process. Math is the same every single time you do it. But the vocabulary, if you look back on it, were some pretty abstract terms about government. So as a parent, I might be looking at this and saying, you know, maybe this child needs some more concrete ways of learning their vocabulary. In this case, we took a special interest from the child and used some of those really abstract terms in something that she was very interested in, Minecraft, and created a story with fill-ins to help her learn those terms a little bit better. So what should you keep? Well, students with an IEP, a good rule of thumb is about 3 to 5 samples per IEP goal per quarter. So if you have a goal, for example, on reading, you'd probably want to keep 3 to 5 samples for that reading goal. For students without an IEP, good rule of thumb is, again, 1 sample per subject per month. And it's going to depend too on your child. If it's something that they're really struggling in, you may want to keep more samples just to show progression. If it's something that they're really good at and you want to keep that for the future to show them someday, you know, by all means, keep that too. Another thing that I don't think I've mentioned in previous versions of this program is whenever you have younger children, like preschoolers, remember that those finger paintings and those glue together projects, those are work samples too. And this shows different learning concepts that your child is mastering. For example, fine motor skills and cutting skills. And so keep in mind that whenever those art projects are coming home, those are also really good work samples to save in your binder. Again, this one has a cover sheet, and I tend to print a work samples page for each subject that I'm keeping. I make notes about what I've observed when my child is completing the work samples. So for example, if my child was doing the calculating volume of rectangle sheet, I might note to myself that, hey, she used the calculator, which was an approved accommodation, and she was able to complete it independently without asking me for too many questions. For odd-sized work like those preschool projects, I use a sheet protector, or sometimes I get one of those plastic folders that you can just clip into the binder and store it in the folder in the back. Data, this is another one. And I think there's some questions in the pre-submitted questions that this data component will actually help with a bit. So a lot of people get very intimidated by data, but it's something that we really use all the time. It's just that we're not aware that we're using data. One example I like to give is if you go to the grocery store to buy bananas, and you kind of know in the back of your head that bananas are going to be like 30 to 40 cents a pound. So if you see bananas are 80 cents a pound, you're not going to buy bananas because you've already got that mindset of that data points that you said, oh, bananas were 30 cents, 33 cents, 44 cents, 33 cents, 80 cents, I'll pass some bananas this week. It's the same thing with keeping track of things for your child. Once you identify those points that you're going to look at, it becomes very easy then to say, oh, my child did this today. No, she didn't do it today, that day. Oh, she did it today. And by that way, you can start keeping track and understanding where those different trends are. One thing that we developed in Connecting for Kids is a homeschool communication sheet, which we'll be able to download from the website. In this case, we took 4 areas that help kind of identify where your child's progress is, and they're great for whenever your child is working at home, for example, doing homework or virtual classes with a hybrid model. We wanted to look at starting work, so whether or not they're interested, staying on task, so whether or not they have the focus, whether they were able to work on their own, so independence, and then whether or not they actually understood the work they were doing. And by keeping track of these kind of things, you can kind of get a feel for, oh, you know, my child generally understands what they're doing, but hey, you know, they keep asking me for help and they don't want to work on their own. So maybe there's a problem there that I want to talk to my child's teacher about and see how the teacher handles that in the classroom. Again, this is a link on our website that you'll be able to access. Candy will definitely be sending it along, and it's also in the presentation. So, and there's a cool little video with it too to get you started. Other types of data you may be asked to keep track of, especially if your child's doing a hybrid learning, your teacher may be sending IEP goal tracking sheets. One tip I offer with this one is whenever you send those IEP tracking sheets back, make sure to keep a copy for yourself and tuck it in the binder. It's good to have those reference points for later on down the line. All right, let's move into school communications. So these are more of the informal communications, and these can include your emails, your phone calls, and in-person communications, letters or notes, and text messages with your child's education staff. Why are you going to keep track of these? Well, if you're like me, you're going to forget what you talked about 10 minutes after you talked about it. So just keeping track of it can be a great way to help you remember, oh, you know, the teacher used this intervention and I really want to try this at home. Or, oh, they sent me a link to this website. What was it called? I want to try that. So it's a great reminder for you just to help you keep track of that information. Okay, so that's the main information that you're going to keep in the binder, but wait, there's more. We've developed a 4-part self-guided learning module in cooperation with the Rotary groups that supported this program. And you can actually go through, number 1 is what we just covered today, which is how to put your binder together. Step 2 is that data tracking that I talked about. There was a link to on the website. And then steps 3 and 4 are going to help you with some problem solving tools and working through that communication hierarchy. So you can visit the website to learn more about those other tools. Some places where you can get more help on your education issues. Disability Rights Ohio has a protection and advocacy for individuals with DD program, and they can help you if you do have some advocacy issues where you actually need some legal services to support you. The Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities, OCECD, also has some fantastic resources. If you're not sure what to do next with your child's issues related to disability in school, I really highly encourage you to give them a call because they can send you all kinds of information that will help you out and know your rights in the educational process. And that free binder kit we discussed early on in the program that includes the binder, the hole punch, and the paper pads. We have some available to pick up at Westlake Porter Public Library. If you're so inclined to do that, you can get it in your hands right away. Just pull up to the library and get your binder kit. We can also take care of mailing those kits to you. So if you need to get your kit mailed to you because you can't make it out to the Westlake Porter Public Library, just put your request in the chat to Candy and we'll make a list of people who need those binders mailed out to them. And then for our Lorain County residents, those kits will be distributed through your parent mentors. And that's Candace and Paula who spoke to us earlier in the program tonight. These references are some of the links that I mentioned. So those are all there at the end of the program for you, and lots of good stuff right there. So I'm going to stop share. And that concludes that part of the program, which means we're going to move it over into the question and answer session.